Hi guys, welcome to Brand X Reviews and another edition of BXR Mailbag. Now today's question is regarding the Marvel Cinematic Universe film that ties in with this graphic novel series, Civil War, which I think came out in 2006. That was when the 7-part Civil War storyline came out. Anyway, I'm sure many of you are aware of this, and I have spoke about this in other videos as well, so I'll kind of skip over some parts of what it is and what I think the story is going to be. Now the actual mailbag question is coming regarding this. It's from one of our regular contributors, Paul Cage. I don't think contributor is the right word. I think we can pretty much say that Paul Cage is one of the Brand X Reviews team now. Just done so many great contributions, not just on the mailbag but elsewhere. But anyway, not everybody wants to hear about that. We're going to be asking about the Civil War film. The actual question that was posed was quite an interesting one because it was something that I've kind of wondered about myself, and that is the translation of the graphic novel to the film version, because there was differences between the comics and the films. Now, I'll just read the question anyway to start with. So, we all know that Civil War is coming in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This may seem like a daft point, but apart from the main 7 or so Avengers, there may only be another measly handful of heroes. In the comic book world, you could have literally hundreds of heroes at war, which could be earth-changing. In the movie world, it seems like it would just be a handful of heroes and that it would be nothing more than a tiny riot. This to me does not seem dramatic or epic enough for the build-up. Correct me if I am wrong, and please expand if you can. So yeah, there was also an addendum to that question as well. He's put, I forgot to mention that the word war may seem a little bit over the top. If 2 small gangs get together and fight, it doesn't get called a war, which, yeah, to be fair, you could say that. Now, your question is obviously saying, in the actual graphic novel, the comic book series, a 7-part series, and it was kind of even expanded upon beyond that as well, you had a hell of a lot of superheroes in these. I mean, if I can just kind of find visually, I know there's one bit right at the end where it does show like all the guys kind of fighting together. You have a lot more characters than there are in the film universe. I mean, this has the Fantastic Four in it, it has Daredevil in it, it has the Punisher in it, it has loads of lesser known characters. You've got Captain Marvel, all sorts of people, the whole spectrum pretty much of the Marvel comic book universe. And the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a lot smaller so far. Now, maybe if you're watching this video in a month's time, that will be different because Avengers Age of Ultron will have come out, and I don't know how they're going to expand the superhero roster at that point. Now, as it stands at the moment, like I say, it's a handful of superheroes that we have seen in the films. Now, one thing that I would mention is, it does appear that there are more superheroes out there in the Marvel Cinematic Universe at this moment in time, pre-Avengers Age of Ultron, than we have seen. Now, I'm saying that because there has been allusion to other characters existing, such as Doctor Strange. Now, we know that there's going to be a Doctor Strange film down the line. I think, is it late 2016, from memory? Well, that character, not just the character before he comes Doctor Strange, he is actually now Doctor Strange. Well, he was last year because he was referenced as being a threat to Hydra. If you remember that scene in the film where Jasper Sitwell mentions anyone that is a threat to Hydra, such as Bruce Banner or Stephen Strange. So presumably Stephen Strange at this point, well, at the point of Captain America the Winter Soldier, wasn't just a guy, a doctor. He has these powers at that point in the series. So we know that just because they're not in the film, that doesn't mean that they're not out there at this point, pre-Avengers Age of Ultron and beyond. So, although it may seem like a small universe, there's suggestion that there's more behind that. We also know that there's going to be like characters like Spider-Man brought into it in the Civil War film. We also know that there's going to be certain characters, not just going to be Tony Stark, Iron Man versus Steve Rogers, Captain America. There's going to be supporting characters in there as well. Similar to what we saw in Captain America the Winter Soldier. You had, obviously, Nick Fury. I mean, he's been in most of the films. But you also had Black Widow as well, and Agent Maria Hill. So a couple of characters that were Avengers characters. Now, Jeremy Renner's character has been confirmed as being in the Civil War film as Hawkeye. I believe Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow character is going to be in the film as well. Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes' character is going to be in it. There's also going to be Crossbones' character, who was in the Winter Soldier film. He's the guy that gets burnt up at the end. He's a Hydra guy who worked inside S.H.I.E.L.D. He becomes his character called Crossbones. He's not a superhero as such, he's just like a really tough guy who works for the enemy. So he's going to be a villain, basically. Sam Wilson, Falcon, is going to be in the film as well, because he was in the Winter Soldier film, so this is sort of a sequel to that. He's a superhero. And also T'Challa, Black Panther, played by Chadwick Boseman, gets his introduction in this film. Now, we also know that there's going to be, I don't know what capacity, but a Spider-Man in this film as well. He's going to get the new Spider-Man, not Andrew Garfield. They're rebooting Spider-Man so they can use him in Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't know who's going to play him yet, that's not been announced, but it's been strongly said that Spider-Man's going to get his introduction in unknown, unspecified so far capacity in the Civil War film. So they're expanding on it, and it's still early days yet. We don't know exactly who else is going to be in this film and in what capacity. You may find in Avengers Age of Ultron that the Registration Act, the Superhero Registration Act that passes, that is the premise of the Civil War storyline, that whole thing might actually kick off in Avengers Age of Ultron to be continued in Civil War. I don't know how accurate that is. I don't like reading spoilers, so I didn't want to research that before I did this video. But that could be the case, it could not be the case. I do know that its roots are going to be in Avengers Age of Ultron, because the Civil War is basically kicked off in the film after the events of Age of Ultron, because Tony Stark, in a basic theme, created Ultron in this. I know there's more to it than that, but he created Ultron. A lot of people died. The government say, look, you superheroes, you're going to have to be reined in by the government, you're going to have to answer to the government. Tony Stark's going to agree with that sentiment because he's carrying a lot of guilt for what happened in Avengers Age of Ultron. I've got a theory that War Machine, James Rhodes, his friend, is going to die in Avengers Age of Ultron as well, which will again kind of make Tony Stark a lot more emotional about what's happened and what he's responsible for. So Tony Stark's going to be a real kind of pioneer for the Superhero Registration Act, even though he is a superhero himself. And on the other side of the coin, you're going to have Steve Rogers saying, well, hang on a minute, you want us, the superheroes, the good guys, to register with you, the government, the same government that was taken over by Hydra. That's going to be why you've got this dichotomy within superheroes within that film, and I believe that's going to start in Avengers Age of Ultron. I don't know exactly how deep into it we're going to get, but from what I understand, Civil War is on the back of the Avengers Age of Ultron film. Now, Thor won't be involved in this. From what I understand, he's going to be off in Asgard doing whatever. The Thor Ragnarok film, from what I know as fact, because Kevin Feige said, Thor Ragnarok is Thor's continuation directly from Avengers Age of Ultron. So while Civil War's going on, Thor Ragnarok is presumably going on as well, although you don't see the Thor film till the year later. But that's why Thor isn't around, basically. Other characters as well, Hulk. I don't know where Bruce Banner and the Hulk are going to be, presumably locked up by the time that the Civil War film comes out. All those scenes that you've got in the film, the trailer, for Avengers Age of Ultron, where you've got Iron Man and Hulk fighting, I'm assuming that will be towards the latter part of the film, because Tony Stark is going to turn on the Avengers, turn against them, because again, we know for a fact, because Kevin Feige, the Marvel guy, the exec, has said that the lineup of Avengers, the roster, is going to be dramatically different at the end of the film to what it was at the beginning of the film. As for characters like Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, I don't know what's going to happen to them. Other characters as well, the Avengers that are out there, we'll just kind of have to wait and see. But you are right though, it is a lot smaller universe, this Marvel Cinematic Universe, so to say it's a war, I think you can justify that, because the actual premise of the film as well, the official plot synopsis, does actually say, I'll read it out to you. I said this in the other video, it's only a paragraph in it. Following the events of Avengers Age of Ultron, the collective governments of the world, not just America, pass an act designed to regulate all superhuman activity. This polarises opinion amongst the Avengers, causing two factions to side with Iron Man or Captain America, which causes an epic battle between former allies. So again, as I say, I put the emphasis on there. This is the world. So I mean, you're saying it's a small universe. Well, presumably at this point there's going to be more superheroes out there. They're maybe not going to show us a lot of it, but they're going to kind of show you bits. So you'll have superheroes doing their thing in other countries. And we do also have Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which, for better or for worse, does tie in. It is canon with the films. I don't know exactly. I mean, I know the movies impact the series, obviously. Events happening in the film impacted on the series. I don't see the events of the series or characters in the series impacting on the films, because the films are the bigger thing than the series. Having said that, it's still canon. There are superheroes in in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that are in this universe that haven't been in the films and may not be in the films. So we've got characters like Quake, who is an Inhuman, who is a major character in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Inhumans is going to be a film of its own. It's kind of like an X-Men kind of franchise within the Marvel comics. They're doing their own film that's canon with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they've already introduced the Inhumans in the series Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So if you're not been watching that, you might want to check it out, because they're planting seeds that are going to be picked up on in films. And Quake is quite a big character. There's other characters like Mockingbird as well. There is the Absorbing Man as well. I'm a big fan of that character in the comics, and he's been brought into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well at the beginning of Series 2. So there are more characters in this universe that you may not kind of appreciate just because they haven't been in the films, they've been in the series. Now I've kind of got problems with the series. It does feel kind of cheap in a lot of ways compared to the films, but it's enjoyable. I've liked it. That's my opinion. It's had its ups, it's had its downs, but some of the good episodes have been worth watching the bad ones for. So again, that just kind of adds, it kind of bulks up the universe. So your concerns about obviously in the films, it's a smaller lineup of characters compared to what it was in the comics. I would say I can see where you're coming from, but don't worry about it too much, because we can kind of say, well, there are more, and they're even adding to it. There's also going to be Ant-Man as well coming out after Avengers Age of Ultron. I don't know how his character is going to play into the Civil War film, if at all. I certainly haven't heard anything being announced that Paul Rudd or Michael Douglas are going to be in the Civil War film, how it's going to work with those guys. But certainly a good point anyway. So if you're saying that it doesn't seem dramatic or epic enough for the build-up, I think it will be. I really do. I think that they're going to put as much into it as they can to make it not just Captain America versus Iron Man. This is a civil war. This is a lot of people, a lot of characters involved. Now there are subtle differences between the movie and the actual graphic novel series. In this, part of the Registration Act, the Superhero Registration Act, was that superheroes had to register with the government, not just activity-wise, but also they had to reveal a secret identity, which again is obviously not going to be an issue so much in the films, because people know Tony Stark is Iron Man, people know who everybody is. Having said that, there's going to be Spider-Man who, I mean, he fundamentally needs a secret identity. He is Peter Parker, not many people know that. And that needs to be the case as well. I know that kind of changed in this, but they're going to have that in the film maybe, I don't know. There's also Black Panther in this as well that they're introducing, the character of T'Challa, but again everybody knows who is the Black Panther. It's not a secret identity as such. So yeah, we will see. I mean, it's not gonna be as epic as the comic. I mean, in that you've got everything. You've got Norman Osborn, you've got, like I say, Daredevil, Bullseye, the Punisher, just everybody seems to be in that. And a 2-hour film, or even 2.5-hour, 3-hour film isn't enough really to have all those characters in and serve them justice. So stick to your main ones, but maybe bulk it with a few of the other characters that just don't have as much screen time. I'm kind of rambling on now, so I was going to try and keep this video short, but I've gone to 15 minutes so far. I don't think really have much else to say because again, a lot of it's kind of my theories, and some of it might not even come to be the case. I say it's not just superheroes that we're kind of talking about. There are plenty of supervillains that are going to be in this universe too. I know that Marvel's films do get criticised quite a bit for having fairly weak villains. They're not perfect superhero films in a lot of ways. There are areas where you can criticise these films. Other things that they do as well, where they'll kill characters off only to bring them back again. That's another thing that Marvel films get criticised for. But let's say the villains issue. There's going to be the characters like really good ones like Crossbones, Frank Grillo, who played the Brock Rumlow character, who is Crossbones in the Winter Soldier film, has basically said he's coming back for the Civil War film as well. So you're not just going to have the government versus superheroes. You're going to have a few supervillains in there as well, kind of mixing it up. Presumably Hydra is going to be involved as well. Possibly even a return of the Red Skull. We'll see about that. I'm not too sure. I know that the actor that played the Red Skull in the original Captain America, the first Avenger film from 2011. Oh, what's his name? I never remember the name of the actor. The guy at the Matrix, Agent Smith, anyway. He isn't going to be returning. He said he's not going to do any more of these films. But Daniel Bruhl, who was this guy, he was in I think he was in Rush, the Ron Howard film about racing. He is cast in this film, in the Civil War film. He's listed on IMDb as playing Baron Zemo, which is a Captain America villain, a Marvel villain going back decades. But I don't know how true that is. That's, as far as I'm aware, that's not confirmed. That's just IMDb just kind of bullshitting. Possibly could play the Red Skull. I mean, you can change actors. I mean, they just have to do his face like a Red Skull. He can do the German voice, the accent, can this actor. So that would be quite a good way of doing it. Bring the Red Skull back. Really great supervillain. Something that really has kind of been lacking in a lot of the Marvel films. I mean, we had, was it Ronan the Accuser in the Guardians of the Galaxy film is kind of weak. He's kind of an underling in a lot of ways. You've had other villains as well, like Malekith from Thor: The Dark World. Wasn't really all that awe-inspiring. We've had others too. So hopefully the lineup of villains in the Civil War film will be something to enjoy, not just, as I say, the Tony Stark and the government versus superheroes. It's going to be a war. So that, I hope, answers your question. I really am rambling on now, but as it turns out, people like watching videos of me rambling. Well, a few people do. So that's my video on this subject. I think I'll leave it there anyway, guys. Again, thanks to Paul Cage for the contribution. Again, Paul, you're not just a contributor, you are pretty much a Brand X Reviews member. So, in fact, I'll be seeing you on April 23rd because we're going to go see the Avengers Age of Ultron film in Manchester in 3D, in IMAX 3D. Paul's going to be there as well, so maybe viewers might even see him on the review that we do after that film comes out. We get the film in the UK a week before America does, which is really unfair. I mean, I don't mind kind of getting things exclusively before the majority, I guess. You kind of get a buzz out of that. But it really is unfair. It really sucks. It's an American film. America should get it first. But that's the way it is anyway. So I will be reviewing it, probably doing a spoiler review too, at brandxreviews.com. So if you want to check that out in America, if you haven't seen the film, you want to know kind of what happens in it and the fan perspective, come back to Brand X Reviews on or shortly after the 23rd of April, and you'll be getting just that. Now, if you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, feel free to do so. If you want to contribute to the Brand X Reviews mailbag section, just post a comment either on YouTube, Facebook, or the website. There's going to be information coming up at the end of this video how you can view all those things anyway. So as I said, the website is brandxreviews.com. For now, I will say thank you very much for watching, and thanks again to Paul Cage for the great contribution. Thank you very much. Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Just so you know, for more news, reviews and retrospectives, you can like our page on Facebook, simply called Brand X Reviews. But as well as that, you can also subscribe to us on YouTube via this video. You can also bookmark our website, which is brandxreviews.com, which is pretty much a central hub for everything that I've just mentioned. So check that out and we will see you next time. Thank you very much.